Hello, it's me Harley, back at it again for yet another video, and today I am going to be talking about a memory which has only just really resurfaced in my brain. I haven't thought about this in a very long time and I suddenly remembered it and I thought, hey, this will make a good story. And this would have happened about 14 years ago when I was 6. So something I should tell you before I begin my story, just to give you a bit of background, is our house is 15 years old. It was built in 2005. It is quite obviously a modern build house. It is a reasonable size. It's in a pretty good, decently well-off area. Like, we ain't millionaires, but we're not having to scrape by. So we're in a kind of comfy area place to live. And our neighbours are sheep. Like, go a couple of doors down, our next door but like 3 is a field of sheep. So anybody coming up here and walking around, unless they're our neighbours, a delivery person dropping off like parcels, or around Christmas Santa, it is really unusual to see strangers around here. It doesn't happen. When this happened, the house had only been in a livable condition for less than a year. We'd only just moved into this house. So it had only just been built, we'd only just moved in, and I sincerely believe that this made us a target for burglars. So where should I begin when it comes to the story? I remember it must have been a Thursday, and the reason why is because my dad worked at 2 separate locations, and one location he worked 4 days a week, the other location he worked 1 day a week, and that was always on a Thursday. So it must have been a Thursday sometime during the summer of 2006. I remember it being quite warm, because it had to be quite warm. We have hard tiled kitchen floor, and when this happened, I was a little 6-year-old girl playing on the kitchen floor. So if it had been winter, I'd have been frozen to it. I was just playing there. I remember my mum was upstairs in her bedroom. I think she was ironing. I remember she was just doing general house chores and stuff, and she trusted me just to play by myself, maybe watch TV, but she knew I wasn't gonna go round and, I don't know, decide to play knife throwing, because I just wasn't that kind of kid. My dad was at work. Everything should have been just fine, just quiet like that. This is where things go a bit weird. As I'm playing, I hear the gate to our back door open. And I remember looking up and thinking something along the lines of, oh, Dad's home early. Like, oh, is that Dad? It wasn't anything that caused great alarm. At this time, we didn't have a dog, so there would be no dog barking or a wagging tail or growling to indicate that it was somebody I didn't know, like we have now. We have a very good guard dog, Bobo, and she will tell us if it's somebody she doesn't know coming to our door. So then I hear the back door open pretty slowly, and in walks this really tall guy. Well, he may have not been really tall in real life. I was 6 years old, so anybody who was an adult looked really tall to me. But I can remember him walking in, and I can't remember exactly what items of clothing he was wearing, but he was wearing all black. No colour on him at all. and he just walks straight in, no hesitation whatsoever, no doubt in his eyes, just walks in and sees me on the floor. Now then, I was a pretty, socially adept kid. I knew what burglars were. In fact, I was kind of addicted to watching Crime Watch when that was a thing, and I liked all the kind of legal stuff, so I knew what a bad guy was. But somehow that didn't click in my brain. And I genuinely believe, thinking back on it now, it was because of how sure he was walking in. It wasn't as you imagine, as a kid, of a burglar creeping around quietly and stealthily. He just opened the door, walked in, proud as punch. So I thought, kind of along the lines of, oh, he must mean to be here. This is something that's meant to happen. Obviously, it wasn't. That guy, I'd never seen before in my life, and I've never seen him since. So there we are, just looking at each other, and I'm like, I remember it was me who spoke first, and I said something along the lines of, who are you? Or hi, or whatever. I remember him saying, oh, hello back. And then he went, I was just here to tell you you need to clean out your fish. Oh my God, this is so silly now. But I believe that was a very quick thinking, reaction. In our kitchen, on our windowsill at the time, I had a fish tank with 2 goldfish in. God bless Concrete and Goldilocks, my first pets. And he must have walked in, seen me, gone, oh, darn, there's a kid here. Needed to come up with an excuse, looked around, and the first thing he saw were my goldfish. And when I was younger, I wasn't very good at looking after fish. My mum didn't have really anything to do with them, and it was my dad who had set the tank up, and I had fish in it and would feed them every morning. Looking back on it now, it wasn't ideal, because it was literally a tank with nothing in it, no filter, no substrate, nothing. It was just a tank with 2 fish in. And because it had no filter and stuff, and because it's a fish tank, they do go a bit green and iffy sometimes. And to be fair, at the time, there was a bit of green on the edges of the fish tank. So I was like, oh, okay, that makes sense. You're here to tell me to clean out my fish. Why did I think somebody would come in to, tell me to clean out my fish? Did I think it was something like the goldfish fairy? I mean, I didn't believe in Santa at that time. I didn't believe in the tooth fairy because, honestly, I don't know why I never believed in them. My mum and dad tried to convince me they were real, but I just didn't really believe in them. I knew that if I saw Santa, it was somebody dressed up as Santa and it wasn't real. But I just was kind of like, oh, okay, I'll go along with it. Because I can remember being about 4 or 5 and telling my mum I don't believe in Santa, and my mum genuinely getting really upset about it. So I didn't want to upset or offend anyone by saying, oh, I don't believe in the tooth fairy. Oh, I don't believe in Santa. I don't believe in the goldfish fairy. I was just like, oh yeah, thank you for telling me. And at this point, he just turns around in the kitchen, walks back out through the door, closes the door, walks out through the gate, and closes the gate. So I'm left there in the kitchen, now wondering how the heck I am going to clean out my goldfish. So I decide to do what I've seen my dad do before. fill up a bucket of water from the tap. I then get the little blue net that you scoop fish up with, scoop the fish and put them in the bucket so then I could tip the water out and clean the tank. I never got to that stage because it took all my effort to be able to fill this blinking heavy bucket and put the fish in and put it to the side. It's been quite a while doing that. I was 6 years old. This was not an easy task. For me to be able to reach the sink in the kitchen, I had to get one of the bar stools, drag it along the kitchen floor, put it up against the sink, climb up and do it all like that. It wasn't an easy task. And I then start with the sponge, cleaning the special fish sponge, cleaning the sides of the tank to remove the algae build-up. Not that there was a lot, but there was a bit. That's when my dad walks in. And I can just remember him going, like, he didn't even say, like, I'm home, or hello, how was day at school? He just went, what are you doing? And I explained to him I was cleaning out the fish tank. He then goes, did you leave that bucket to degas? And I was like, what? What do you mean, did I leave that bucket to degas? And he immediately like goes into save the fish mode because I put the fish in chlorinated tap water. I was 6, I didn't know that you had to leave it for an extended period of time to degas or use like water conditioner stuff for fish tanks. I just thought it just came from straight from the tap, like I have a bath. I have a bath, I don't degas the bath water. And my dad scoops these fish out and puts them back in the tank, which thankfully I hadn't emptied yet. And looking back on it now, I see that Concrete and Goldilocks were definitely having rather laboured breathing. They'd been in that chlorinated water for a little while longer than they should have. They shouldn't have been in it at all, but yeah, they weren't in great health for the rest of that day. And goes, what in the hell were you thinking? Like, you could have killed your fish. And there's me just with my eyes, I'm bawling at this point because I was so upset. I was like, I could have killed my fish. I could have never seen them again. At this point, I did understand what death was and I knew full well what it meant if, like, my fish had died, that was them gone forever. So I was in hysterics. My dad went, what possessed you to do this? Like, what made you think I'm going to scoop my fish out and put them into a bucket? That's when I told him that somebody had came into our kitchen and told me to do it. Fair enough to my dad. He did not believe me. He thought I was just being a child in hysterics, making up a lie to try and save her own butt. I wasn't. There genuinely had been a man come into our kitchen. All's well that ends well. But I genuinely think if I hadn't been in that like kitchen right at that point, that guy would have planned to rob the place. Let's see it from his perspective, the burglar's perspective. Here's a new build house. A family has just moved in. Therefore, they will have all their furniture in. They'll have bought new things to put around, maybe a new TV. It's a new build place in quite a decent area. It seems to be vacant. If he'd looked in through my living room window, which is on the front, he wouldn't have seen anybody in the living room. I was playing in the kitchen down in the back, so he wouldn't have seen anybody there. My mum was up in the bedroom, so again, she was out of sight, out of mind. And my dad was at work, so he'd taken the car and there was an empty drive. In his mind, this would be like the perfect place to rob. And what's even better does he find? He finds the gate unlocked and the back door unlocked. I am certain when that guy walked in and saw me, he probably was pooing himself with fright, seeing me there, thinking, oh my god, what happens if she screams? What happens if she screams? And like, there is somebody else in the house. So, I think he must, like, I can remember him seeming so nice. He seemed like a really, really nice guy and talked to me really calmly and happily. It didn't raise any alarm bells. But that's the story of how I think I stopped the house getting burgled when I was 6 years old. God knows what would have happened if I had screamed. Like, I don't know if he was secretly carrying anything under his arm just in case or whatever. I don't know if he had violent tendencies. I was in a kitchen for peace sake, and a kid who's smaller than the counter. He could have quite easily just reached up and grabbed a knife from the knife rack and like gone all stabby McGee on me. Anything could have happened. It wasn't until I was about 14 did I bring this up with any of my parents again. And I remember just turning to my mum and going, huh, can you remember that time that I said that somebody came into the house to clean up my goldfish? And she was like, oh yeah, yeah. And I said, you do know that actually happened? Like, I didn't make that up. Somebody did come into the house. And she was like, what? We'd always thought that was just a kid lying. And I was like, nope, was telling the complete and honest truth. So yeah, that's the end of my story, and I hope you enjoyed it. I hope none of you experienced the goldfish fairy in your lives, because that isn't a fun thing to happen. On that note, I'll say toodle pip or bean, and see you in the next video.